that music and the fact that it's Friday, when those two things come together, it must mean that John Sotomayor is in the room, and he is. This is Ocala Magazine Radio. John is the host of the show, and he also is the executive editor of Ocala Magazine. He's got another great show to bring to us today. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Larry. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Yeah, we do have an amazing show today. We're going to cover two of our features that was in our June issue. One was on legendary Lake Weir, and the other was on golf pro Ted Potter Jr. And it seems lonely in the studio for me today because my guests are not here with me. Right. But we have our two guests who are going to call in, and one is Kelly Hart. I believe she's on the line now.
Yep.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning.
And the other is Keith Chartrand. Kelly wrote the legendary Lake Weir story, and Keith wrote the story on Ted Potter Jr. Kelly can embellish on this later, but you know, Lake Weir has incredible history behind it. We focused on 5 different areas that we felt would be alluring and interesting for people to want to visit. Every year they have tons of locals here, and visitors come see it. And now we have new things happening at Lake Weir that would be even more attractive to the area.
All right, can't wait to hear.
Yeah, and also attractive in Ocala is the fact that we have a golf star here. Ted Potter Jr. has been burning up the links with his amazing golf game. And Keith, who is a sports writer by trade, will embellish on that. So first I'm going to talk to Kelly. Kelly Fuqua Hart is an Ocala native and University of Florida graduate. She earned her bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in psychology and mental health. In addition to writing for Ocala Magazine, Kelly's an active leader in our community with local charities and organizations. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, John.
Hey. So we're going to be talking about Lake Weir. It has a rich history as well as fun places to visit. Tell us about them.
Okay. Well, it was a lot of fun actually doing the article, and because it covered the history, there was a lot of research involved. And I'm from Ocala and have been to most of the places that I mentioned in the article, but really never gave much thought as to the history of them. So it was a lot of fun for me to go back and dig up a little bit of that history. One of the most fun things was actually getting to go inside the Ma Barker house, which is one of the sections covered in the story, and getting to walk through and see literally remnants of history that are still in place, the same as they were the day that they lived there and the day that the FBI came in. So that was probably one of the more exciting parts of the story for me.
Tell us the history behind that, because that's a very exciting thing. It's got everything you can imagine, from gangsters to shootouts to running on the lam. I mean, tell us about that story.
Okay, well, it is a really interesting story, and I got to hear it firsthand from the family who's owned the house for a long time. It's called one of the most storied shootouts in the history. It's the Ma Barker gang, and they ran a tight little circle. Ma Barker and her son Fred were the two that were gunned down by the federal agents. They said there was over 2,000 rounds unloaded into the home, and you can still see, although it's been patched up, you can still see all of the places where there was gunfire. Even in one of the old wrought iron beds, there's still a hole, and part of the bed that's been kind of curled away where the bullet went through the bed, that was still left, as was the night that everything went down. But there was a lot of criminal activity surrounded by the family, and so they found a rental home in Ocala and decided that they would rent there. It was secluded and private, and they got away from all of the little trail of crime that they had been out doing, robbing banks and kidnapping people, and it ultimately landed right here in Ocala.
I think we should add that the crimes did not occur in the Florida area. It occurred elsewhere in the country, and they were hiding out there.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was definitely their hideout. And so the way that the family was ultimately caught, of course, they kind of had already known, just through some other things that had happened and occurred within the family, that they were looking for them and they were on the most wanted list. But the way they finally found out that they were renting this home was through Gator Joe, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But this humongous gator that was out seen on the banks of Lake Weir, and Bob Barker kept writing to her son about this gator they were trying to catch in the lake. So when one of the letters was intercepted, it led them directly back to Lake Weir,
Right.
and then ultimately to this particular home.
Right, because the FBI figured out that Gator Joe was legendary in that lake
wow.
from the early 1900s, so they knew we got to look at Lake Weir.
Never knew that.
Yes, yes,
That's crazy.
yes. Now, in doing some research, some people are skeptical about the truth of the story. Some people said that Ma had a gun and she was, shooting off rounds just like her son. Other people said she was oblivious to it and was shot down in cold blood, and they staged a gun next to her to make her look like she was part of the crime. But I don't think you have sons out robbing banks, kidnapping, killing, murdering, and not know what's going on.
Right.
So, according to the family, she was definitely a part of this. And they even said that Al Capone had visited Ma and Fred Barker the night
Wow.
preceding the shootout. So
Huh.
that's kind of a cool piece of history that I didn't find online, but that I did get from the family directly.
That is very cool. Now, you mentioned Gator Joe. Gator Joe's is a very popular restaurant there. So what's the connection? What's going on with Gator Joe's?
Okay, well, Gator Joe's was built in 1926, and so that really blew my mind when I was doing my research and how old the establishment is and how much history that it has. And, of course, it was formerly known as Johnson's Beach, and it became the world-famous Gator Joe's when everything went down with Ma Barker, and they named this humongous gator that was eventually caught by a local man, and they named the establishment after this gator, Gator Joe's. So, as we know it as the Key West-style waterfront restaurant, where you can go in, sit down, and have lunch or dinner. There's live music from time to time. I can remember years ago when we used to go out there because they had karaoke when karaoke first became this huge thing, and not a lot of in-town establishments had it. We would make the drive out there and go do karaoke.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's always fun. I don't know if anybody who's not been out there, whether it's by boat, because you can pull up and get out and sunbathe and enjoy the beaches and the volleyball courts,
Right.
or to drive there and have dinner. But if you go in there, they do have this big, huge gator claw in a case
Wow.
on display that belonged to the famous gator that was caught many, many years ago.
And for those that don't know, Gator Joe's also has a tiki hut off the pier that it's an extension of the restaurant, so you can eat inside the restaurant, or you can go out to this like tiki hut type.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so you actually kind of feel like you're in the Caribbean or something like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's great because you can be down by the beach all day in your swimsuit, and throw on some flip flops and walk up the deck and have food, grab a drink, listen to music. Still kind of in your lake or beachy attire. So it's really casual, but a lot of fun.
Speaking of beaches and restaurants off the beaches, there's new stuff going on at Eaton's Beach, right?
Yes, absolutely. Eaton's Beach it's Eaton's Beach Sandbar and Grill, and it's being resurrected right now. It's not completely finished. It's supposed to be, according to the owner, sometime in August is the target date. But they have taken the old Eaton's Beach and they're resurrecting it, and it's going to be on the opposite side of the lake, which is great because it'll give some other options.
That's right.
To the Gator Joe's crowd. But it is owned by Randy and Sue Quinches, and they have bought the beach some years ago, and now their dream of opening the sandbar is coming to fruition. And what used to be, summer cottages, an old bowling alley that burned down, I think, somewhere back in the 40s. All of these things that were once part of the recreation on the lake is now becoming a reality again, but of course a more updated version with more trendy alternatives. So they're going to have a floating deck. They're going to have boat docks so you can come in, dock your boat, enjoy all of the experiences of the sandbar. They have a horseshoe rooftop deck where you can, eat, drink, and be merry. And it looks like they're on schedule for this, so we're hoping that we can get to enjoy this a little bit before the summer ends this year.
Excellent. Now, another destination there on Lake Weir is the Yacht Club. It's also right off the water and accessible to boats, I believe. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, the Yacht Club is this bright blue building that you see. If you're on the lake, you can see it, and if you are trying to find it by foot, it is tucked away. In fact, my sister was married there a couple years ago, and that's how I had my first experience with the yacht club as a venue for people who want to have any kind of an event.
Mm-hmm.
And they've stuck with the bright blue color, which was the original color. So they have done a lot of remodeling. They've redone paint, but all to stay within the original context of what it was some years ago, 1909, when it was organized. And the reason that it was organized was there was a big interest in boating and getting together as, organized boaters, and so the yacht club was organized. And back in the day, the fees were $1. There were annual dues for an additional $1 that was due every February. And the official clubhouse was built by our former Florida governor, Buddy McKay's grandfather, George, and it was opened in 1913. And members could, come by boat, they could swim, there was dancing, they had games, they had live piano that was played from time to time. And so it's really historical, and the fact that most yacht clubs are not found on, freshwater lakes, but more saltwater oceans because of the yachts and the idea of a yacht club. So it's a pretty interesting fact there that I discovered. But in 1993, it was added to the U.S. National Registry of Historical Places. So if you go to that registry, you will see our yacht club listed there. And now it is used as a venue location. So it's got some interesting history there.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. And then one other place that has rich history, been there for a long time, is Carney Island. Tell us briefly about that.
Carney Island, yes, that is one of these places that is really historical to us, and it's a great concept, a great place for families to go. You can pay, someone was telling me that you can pay like an annual membership and be a part of a park kind of an annual membership, so you can enjoy some of the different parks, and Carney Island is one of those. It's been enjoyed by families for many, many years. Things like horseshoes, you can fish, sunbathe. There's the swimming hole. There's a year-round playground. It's 750-plus acres of walking trails and hiking paths. And so it's a very inexpensive way to get your family together, enjoy the outdoors without having to pay theme park-type fees or, you don't have to go inside a park and then purchase their food. You can bring coolers and bring your drinks and make an entire day out of it.
Right.
Enjoy the beautiful scenery lakeside for just a few bucks. So that's a really, really important thing to know for families this summer looking for things to do recreationally.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kelly, for your tips on Lake Weir. Fantastic information. Please stand by and hold. I'm going to address our other guest now.
Okay.
Keith Chartrand is on the other line. Oh, do we have Keith here?
Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good morning, Keith. Thank you for joining us. Keith,
No problem.
Keith, let me introduce you to our listeners. Keith is a two-time winner of the Florida Society of Newspapers Sports Writing category and a three-time winner of the Florida Press Club Sports Feature Writing category. So he knows his sports. He worked 8 years with the Village's Daily Sun Sports and has been an ESPN newsroom assignment editor for 4 years. So it's a pleasure to have you with us today, Keith.
Glad to be here, John, and glad to be here to talk about our local golf pro.
Yes. Tell us give us a brief, basic overview of Ted Potter Jr. What is he like, and what was it like to interview him?
Well, the Ted, close friends of Ted would tell you that he is very down to earth, very humble, John, almost to the point where he is a shy person, even to the standpoint of him being a professional golfer and having, somebody, golf fans actually watching your every move on a golf course where
Right.
you're trying to do your job, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
which would be something that could be very intimidating. And it could also be the standpoint, you could use the golf course as your stage your showcase, and you could, basically personify yourself and says, "This is my world. You watch. I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to take all the heroics and all the credit with it." Ted is completely the opposite with that. In interviewing him in the end of March at the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill in Orlando, I spoke with him for about 15 or 20 minutes, and you really got that sense of, I'm just Ted Potter, the kid that went to Lake Weir High School, that just had a dream of being a professional golfer and really wanted to live it out. And, he just had the mentality that I'm going to go do this, and if the recognition comes, so be it. And his golf has basically been his talking point. He didn't need to talk at all.
Right, and what a journey it's been from taking the dream and making it into a reality. The feature was called Ted Potter Jr.'s Journey to the Masters. So you covered basically his whole experience from starting the sport to the achievements he's had recently. Tell us about what his journey was like.
Well, it really is kind of like, the kid that kind of has kind of grown up in a sports family and decides that, I'm going to do this. And with a dad who is very much in the golf business, Ted's dad still works in the golf business today. And, he decided that he liked golf at 2 years old was when he started to play. And just like a kid who wants to make some extra money but also wants to play as much golf as possible, Ted and a bunch of his high school friends, well, one in particular, actually got a job at Lake Diamond Golf Club, which many people in Ocala know where that is. It's very close to where Ted actually went to high school at Lake Weir. So he had a high school job, and being like a cart guy, pick the range. People come in and want to play golf. Ted would drive a golf cart out to them and say, "Okay, I'll load your clubs for you. When golf rounds are over, clean the cart off, take any, cups, sandwich wrappers, any type of wrappers out of the cart, make sure the carts were charged." And in addition to basically getting minimum wage for that, Ted got to play a free round of golf. And to any kid in high school who's aspiring to play golf, the free golf might even be more alluring than than the actual minimum wage. So that's actually how it started. And I think the entire Ocala community in 2002 realized that this kid was quote unquote no joke.
Right.
He won the 2002 Marion Masters by an overwhelming margin, and he was 18 years old. And there were people that have been playing golf all their life, not professionals like Tiger Woods and Ernie Els, but professional golfers who were very good in Ocala. And this 18-year-old blew away the field, and that's when it really started. And he realized, I'm going to pursue this dream of being a professional golfer.
Absolutely. And what were some of his other career high points?
Well, he basically, the Marion Masters obviously was the start. He went back and forth on the web.com tour, which is basically the minor leagues of golf. And he started on the Florida tour called the Moonlight Tour. I guess the biggest breakthrough when he finally earned his card after getting a web.com victory and finished high enough in the web.com to actually get his PGA Tour card in his first PGA event in Hawaii, of all places.
Wow.
He finished 14th. So can you imagine a golfer in his first professional event finishes 14th, and he that was kind of the next breakthrough point. And when he finished tied for 14th, basically in his first event, he was actually interviewed by the Golf Channel, which was carrying the golf tournament live. And again, that was like another step in getting to being a PGA Tour winner and being a person that qualifies for the Masters.
Excellent. And now at 29 years old, Ted Potter Jr. is ranked at 143 in the world.
Yep. I mean, the biggest breakthrough point was July of last year when he won the Greenbrier, which is a PGA Tour event in West Virginia. And he won that event. And, you know, you win an event like that, you're a millionaire. You win $1 million. And what that did for Ted is it claims him as he's a PGA Tour winner, so it proves to the people out there that he can win a PGA Tour event. And by winning a PGA Tour event, it gives him an automatic place in probably the most prestigious golf tournament in the world, which was the Masters. So by winning the Greenbrier, he was able to play in this year's Masters. And the biggest surprise, John, of all of that not only did he get to play in the Masters, but the day before the Masters starts, they have, you know, it's kind of like a laid-back, fun, fan-driven event called the Par 3 tournament. And Ted won the Par 3 tournament at the Masters, which shows you how great his short game can be. And it's just another achievement that he can mark on his resume.
Absolutely. Now, like most of us, we all have our ups and downs, and he has his share of that too. We cover this in the story, and that's part of his achievement also, is overcoming the pitfalls. What was his low point, and how did he get past it?
Well, probably the low point was when he was on the web.com tour, and his swing was just not working, and he didn't even qualified to be on the web.com tour probably 2 years into deciding that he's going to turn pro. And he had to go back to one of the mini tours in Florida. And it's just one of those things where it's not working. You go back home and you almost start over and look at everything that you're doing, and you make an approach the game as if almost you're starting over. And Ted confided in the people that had helped him with his swing back here locally in Ocala, and got his swing back. And then, you know, that was probably his low point when he had his web.com tour card basically taken away from him, and he had to, you know, strive to play mini tours, which is not a glorious thing at all, and get back to get his web.com tour card. And then from there, he was able to ascend to playing well on the web.com tour, earning his PGA Tour card, and he broke through with that, you know, tied for 14th in Hawaii, and, you know, those steps were taken to get to the point where he, you know, a PGA Tour winner and a participant in the Masters.
Fantastic. Now, all of our readers can tell you that you did a really great write-up in our June issue. This feature has a lot of detail and great storytelling. Keith, when you got to interview him personally, which, by the way, you were one of the few, I understand, that gets the privilege to interview Ted Potter Jr. He is a very hard person to get a hold of. How do you see that his personal life, his value system, and his personality helped him personally and professionally in his game?
You know, John, it's so important that you brought that up, because that was a crucial part that basically, you know, puts a bow on top of the story, and I should have mentioned it. He has this demeanor of not only just being laid back, humble, and a nice person, but he realizes where he's from, and he's thankful for the people that got him there. He has a core group of people that he calls his friends back in Ocala. You know, and when you become successful, and you become a millionaire on a PGA Tour, you know, sometimes you can kind of forget those guys, but Ted doesn't. I mean, can you imagine Ted Potter, who keeps in touch with his close friends that were on the Lake Lure golf team, that went to Lake Lure with him, that, you know, live with him in Silver Springs, that he can come back to the country club at Silver Spring Shores and actually play around a golf with these guys. And it's just that way.
That's awesome. The testament to this great personality, this great man. So, Keith, what are some of the latest developments since the story was written?
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. One of the he's Well, he qualified for the U.S. Open, and that was a huge testament.
And that was since the story was written?
Yes, that is since the story. That's since the story has been written. That he had to go through local qualifying and he made a playoff, and in doing so, he advanced through the playoff and was able to qualify for the U.S. Open, which was also his first ever appearance in the U.S. Open.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, he did not make the cut, but that's another step.
Right.
Another step in his achievements. I mean, to do something like that is absolutely tremendous.
Absolutely, and we'll be watching closely with his career as it continues to take off, and we'll also be enjoying Lake Weir this summer with all the events and looking forward to the new places that are opening up. I want to thank my guests, Kelly Fuqua Hart and Keith Chartrand. Thank you both.
Thank you, John.
And
thank you very much, John. I do appreciate the time and let me come on and talk about TED.
Absolutely, my pleasure. For our listeners out there, please pick up the issue of June. It is still out there for you to get even more information on both of these topics. That's everything for me today, Larry. Thank you very much.
Good show again. Thank you so much. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Everybody tells me how to rock.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Wear it, Florida. Times of clouds and sun today. A couple of showers and a thunderstorm will spread from near the coast to inland as the day wears on. The high between 88 to 92. A shower or thunderstorm in spots this evening, then partly cloudy overnight with a low of 70 along the interior, 77 at the coast. Tomorrow, times of clouds and sun with a shower or thunderstorm in the area, high 88 to 92. From the Florida Weather